Hey guys, what's up? It's Joe Raiti from Raiti's Rides. I am here for a special reason. It's the unveil of the all-new 2026 Honda Prelude. And if you haven't seen my reviews yet, I'll leave the links at the end of this one to show you just what it is all about for the 6th generation of this iconic nameplate. But what I wanted to do is really show you what is the brief history of the Prelude, because it is a very important car, not only to Honda, but also the automotive industry. But before we just dive in, let me talk about what's going on here. So 6 different generations now. It's the 25th anniversary when we get to 2026. And really this car has been a standout in Honda's lineup for so many years. Right behind me is where it all started. Here in the United States, the year was 1979. Technically, it was born first in Japan, 1978, but 1979, this is your first ever production Prelude. Now, what's interesting is back in the 70s, you had the Civic and you had the Accord. This is actually a little bit smaller than the Accord, but it also has a more premium feel to it. So they were really trying to kind of create this extra experience with the Prelude that separated it from the Accord and the Civic that carried throughout all of the different generations. Now, another thing that's important about the Prelude are innovations. Believe it or not, this is the first Honda ever to have a sunroof. And this particular one, 1979 model with that sunroof, is that unique touch. Now, a little kind of tidbit of information that maybe you would only need on Jeopardy is, believe it or not, with this first year of the Prelude, here in the United States, there was a company that actually constructed convertible Preludes. A lot of them weren't made, obviously, but they were able to be bought through a Honda dealership here in the United States, an actual convertible. But like I said, 1979, here in the United States, that first ever sunroof. Now, getting into the car, it really is cool for Honda to have these vehicles on display, because this is their history. This is the history of the Prelude. Having that manual transmission, 5-speed manual, having what the style was back in 1979. I mean, look at how much passenger room there is. When you go to the door panels and you notice the crank for the side glass, such a small little armrest there, no cup holders, none of that junk that was being thought of yet. And then going from the door panel back to the dash, like I said, all the room, your manual controls, your cigarette lighter, and then there's that 5-speed manual transmission. Actually pretty short throws for this vehicle, not being a full performance car. And then you look at the wheel. I love the classic Honda design with the H there, very thin rim. And then look at the way they had the gauges. Really set up for easy driving experience. Underneath the hood was a 1.8 liter naturally aspirated inline 4, and then of course there's that sunroof I was telling you about. Now when we go to the next generation, what you're going to see is an advancement not only in technology but also in style. So for 1983, here is that 83 Prelude. You'll notice it's got more that wedge style shape to it and the pop-up headlights. This was something that actually stuck around for a couple years, actually 2 generations of the Prelude. I love that nice angular wedge style. And then when you think of this setup, it's basically going from 83 to 87. And that's where you're gonna have that extra style. And then of course the introduction of the SI model, which was a 2-liter inline 4. So not only are you getting different style when it comes to the pop-up headlights and the angular design, you're also getting different amount of horsepower. Now on the interior, here's where we start to see things changing through the generations. Now in this particular one, you still got that manual transmission. That's something that's always very unique. You'll notice radio delete. This is during a time period where you could option in the radio or not have a radio if you don't want one. And then of course these seats. Crazy to have almost like a bucket performance seat because of the availability of an SI trim and having that extra horsepower. And then, like I said, with the manual transmission steering wheel, you can see how the steering wheel changed with the Honda badge and our instrumentation. I could actually smell the 80s in this car right now. I wish you had smell-o-vision on YouTube, because this car smells like the 1980s. But let's continue, because they have more to the history of the Prelude. Now, as we work our way down, 1988 is where we start to see the next iteration. You still have that wedge style shape, you still have your pop-up headlights, but you can see how the exterior is being tweaked in design. And basically what you're looking at is that this generation went from 88 to 91. It wasn't a major redesign, it was more of a refresh, but what you had for the first time ever was Honda's 4WS. That's that rear wheel steer. And it's so funny to think about, because we talk about new cars that have rear wheel steer and how that's like some kind of crazy technology, but think about what Honda was bringing during this time with rear wheel steer, and it was a mechanical rear wheel steer. Now, on the interior of this particular one, you'll see how that refresh design was taking place. This particular one, you had the automatic transmission. So not all Preludes were manual. You do have the availability of an automatic transmission. You got your cassette tape player there, Honda branded, with your AC controls. And then I'm really digging the style of the steering wheel, where they went with the steering wheel. Here's where you're seeing more of a nice GT style. You got the white face gauge, the white letters and numbers on your gauges. And you just see the construction. Like, one thing that's for certain is sitting in this car, opening the doors, closing the doors, very, very strong structurally. The seats, the velour, everybody loves a good velour interior, and this is what they were offering in 88. Now, the next step, and this is one that I really remember because I was in high school, is the 93 introduction. And you could always tell a 90s car so easily, especially early 90s, because they're very rounded in shape. As you can see, the elimination of pop-up headlights. Pop-up headlights are gone, but you still have that classic Honda reliability, Honda durability, and that upscale feel of what they were trying to bring with the Prelude, no matter what generation you were looking at. Now, this particular generation, of course, went from 93 all the way to 96. You had that VTEC, that dual overhead cam technology, where you're looking at a 2.2 liter that produced 190 horsepower. This is also the last generation to offer rear wheel steer. And then of course we got to go inside, because this is where you see the continuation of the design. And this is another thing, on the interior you could always tell 90s style car. And what I love about this is that you look at the dash, how it was implemented high up. Think about what we're seeing in technology now, where cars are going and how that the screens are going up close to the windshield. You actually had all those digital readouts on the dash. Of course, a 5-speed manual, just like day one. And even in 93, you still have your Honda cassette tape with your switchgear. And then this is really a traditional 90s steering wheel. Because of the introduction of airbags, this was like the shape of most steering wheels during this time period because of the size of the airbag. Airbags were so large because it was newer technology, and that's why you had that steering wheel shape. Also, you'll notice 93, you actually have a passenger side airbag as well. This, like I said, does have rear wheel steer, but it was a different setup than the previous generation. Then look at the design of the seats, where they really give it a nice sporty bucket seat style, still with the rear seats as well. All the different generations have had rear seats. Now, going on to the 5th generation, what do we have? We almost have a blending of the past with the new. And what you're gonna find in 99 with this generation, the 5th generation, you got a little bit more of that sort of wedge style shape, just without the pop-up headlights. So what you find on the previous generation, having those exposed headlights, a little bit, it's rounded, but you still have a little bit of a extra wedge shape that kind of debuted many, many years before this particular one. And this is really where you start to see the car just, when Car and Driver tested it and put it up against other vehicles in its class, it was the best handling car for under $30,000. And that's really, you know, something that Honda's always stressed on, is trying to give you that value. So you're looking at 97 to 2001, you're looking at 200 horsepower, and of course we have that SH torque vectoring that was available. One of the things that I've always liked about these is the way they really got the wheel style down nice. You got the rear spoiler, and this particular color, I feel like I knew somebody in college that had one of these, because it just really, you know, stood out from the college parking lot. Now when we get inside, just like we showed you before, you see how everything is changing. You got the dash far up. Now, instead of having all of the digital gauges, we're back to analog gauges. You have your tachometer, 7,500 RPM, your speedometer next door, and then of course, now we have a CD player. So no more tape player, now we have a CD player. And a place for your Twinkies, which if I had some Twinkies from 1997, you can still eat them. They're still good. Manual transmission, nice crisp engagement. And then of course, the velour is back in these bucket seats. I feel like these seats wore so very well. But of course, there's that last part that we got to get to, and that's the newest generation. And that's what you have to watch at the end of this video. Follow the links, because like I said, what you're going to see is the 6th generation of the Prelude. And once again, they're bringing the innovation. This is the first Prelude to ever be hybrid powered. This is also the first Prelude to have a new piece of technology called S Plus, when it comes to the driving experience and what you're engaging with. But it's one of those things that I try to, you know, show the history of the vehicles. You look at how the shape has changed. It's almost like with this new 6th generation, they took some of the 90s, the roundness, but they also blended it in with the angular headlight design of the modern era. I feel like when we look back on vehicles of this generation, what we're looking at now, these angular, very sharp, very sleek headlight designs are going to stand out, and that's what a lot of people are going to remember. But like I said, since 1979, it's always focusing on reliability, the value, and that specific driving experience. I think one of the sad things is that this does not have a manual transmission, whereas all the models going back to 1979 had manual transmissions available. But from what Honda is promising, they're promising a very, very unique driving experience. But let me know if you like this kind of content, where I'm able, if I have it, I'm able to kind of show you the whole history of where a particular car came from. And it's interesting with the Prelude to really show that history, because it's just so rich with technology, the driving experience, and the style. But let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on this whole Prelude experience. But if you're new to the channel, you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile. Come back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Raised Reds family. Gotta give it to Latte Lori. She's working her butt off. This is like the 10th video she's filmed today. So thank you, Lori, for all that you do. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.